When my son Marcus slid those papers across my kitchen table and said, "Just sign here, Mom. You trust me, don't you?" While covering the text with his hand, something inside me cracked like ice on a frozen lake. But I smiled. God help me. I smiled and reached for the pen. "Wait," I heard myself say, and my hand stopped midair. The word came out of nowhere, like my body knew something my heart wasn't ready to admit yet. Marcus's face changed. Just for a second, maybe half a second, I saw something flicker across his features that I'd never seen before. Annoyance, maybe even contempt. Then it was gone, replaced by that familiar, concerned expression he'd perfected over the years. "Mum, seriously? After everything I've done for you?" He leaned back in the chair I'd bought for my kitchen 3 years ago. The chair that cost $400 because Marcus said I deserved nice things. The chair he'd picked out. The chair I'd put on my credit card. I'm 68 years old. I've been a widow for 12 years. And in those 12 years, I've given my son $127,000. I know the exact number because last Tuesday, I couldn't sleep. And I added it all up on my late husband's old calculator. The one that still works perfectly after 35 years, unlike my relationship with my only child. Let me take you back 6 months before that moment at my kitchen table, before the papers, before I finally learned to stop smiling. It started small. It always does. "Mum, can you help me out? Just $500 until my paycheck clears. The bank made a mistake." That was Marcus in 2014, 2 years after his father died. He was 35 then, working in sales, driving a BMW he couldn't afford. I gave him the money. From my savings, the savings Harold and I had built over 43 years of marriage, penny by penny, sacrifice by sacrifice. The paycheck never cleared the supposed mistake. Marcus never mentioned it again. When I brought it up, gently, so gently, because I didn't want to seem like I was keeping score, he looked wounded. "Mum, I can't believe you're throwing that in my face. Dad would be so disappointed." My husband's name in his mouth like a weapon. That should have been my first clue. But then came the bigger requests. Marcus's business venture in 2015, $15,000. "This is it, Mum. This is going to set me up for life. Dad would want you to invest in your son's future." The business failed in 4 months. The money vanished like morning fog. Then the medical emergency in 2016, $8,000. "Mum, Karen needs surgery. The insurance won't cover it. We're desperate." Karen was his wife then. Sweet Karen with the kind eyes who always seemed nervous around Marcus. I liquidated a CD that was earning 3% interest. The surgery happened. I sent flowers to the hospital. Karen never mentioned receiving them. 6 months later, they were divorced, and Karen got nothing in the settlement. I always wondered about that. The pattern crystallized like frost on a window. Ask, receive, disappear, reappear when the next crisis struck. Monthly rent help from 2017 to 2020, $800 a month. That's $38,400. I was living on $2,100 a month from Social Security and Harold's small pension. I ate peanut butter sandwiches for dinner most nights. I told myself it was my choice. I told myself Marcus needed me. But here's what Marcus needed. A new truck in 2018, $6,000 down payment. A vacation to Mexico in 2019. $3,500 I loaned him that never came back. Help with his girlfriend Ashley's credit card debt in 2021. $4,200. Ashley, who I'd met exactly once at a restaurant where Marcus ordered the most expensive item on the menu and I paid. Throughout all of this, You know how many times Marcus invited me to his apartment? 0. How many times he called just to talk, not to ask? I can count them on one hand, and I'd still have fingers left over. How many birthdays he remembered without a reminder text from me? 1. He sent a card. It was generic, the kind you buy in a box of assorted cards. He didn't sign it, just wrote M. The day of my 66th birthday, I sat alone in the house Harold and I bought in 1982. I'd made a small cake, just for me, because what's the point of a big one? The phone rang at 8:47 p.m. My heart jumped. Marcus. Hey, Mom, quick question. Can you lend me $2,000? My landlord is being a real jerk about late fees. It's my birthday, Marcus. Silence. Then, oh, yeah, happy birthday. So about that money. I gave it to him. And I hated myself for it. But I did it anyway because somewhere in my broken heart, I believed that if I just gave enough, loved enough, sacrificed enough, my son would finally see me, really see me. The money went out on Wednesday. By Friday, Marcus's Facebook showed pictures from a casino in Atlantic City. He was tagged with someone named Brittany. They were drinking champagne that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. I didn't confront him. I went to Harold's grave and cried into the grass. Fast forward to 3 months before the papers. Marcus started bringing up future planning. He'd stop by, always around dinner time, always staying just long enough for me to feed him, and talk about how worried he was about me. Mum, what happens when you can't take care of yourself? What happens when you need assisted living? Have you thought about this? I had thought about it. Every night I thought about it. I thought about how my savings account that once had $89,000 now had $12,000. I thought about how I'd postponed a necessary dental procedure because I couldn't afford the $1,800 copay. I thought about the fact that I couldn't afford assisted living because I'd given my future to my son, one crisis at a time. I'm fine, Marcus. I'm healthy. For now. But, Mom, we need to be realistic. I've been talking to some people, and the best thing would be to put your house in a trust. For protection. For your future. My house. The 3-bedroom ranch that Harold and I bought for $68,000 in 1982. The house that's now worth $340,000, according to Zillow. The house that's paid off. My only real asset left. What kind of trust? I asked. It's complicated. Legal stuff. But basically, I'd be the trustee and you'd be protected. If you ever needed Medicaid, the house would be safe. Something in my gut twisted. I'll think about it. His face hardened. You don't trust me? Your own son? After everything I've done for you? Everything he'd done for me. I almost laughed. What exactly had he done for me? He'd cashed my checks. He'd made promises he never kept. He'd shown up when he needed something and disappeared when he didn't. But I didn't say any of that. Instead, I said what I always said. Of course I trust you, honey. I just need to understand it better. 2 weeks later, he showed up with his girlfriend, Brittany. She was 28, wore designer clothes, and looked at my house the way someone looks at a used car they're considering trading in. Marcus has told me so much about you. She gushed, though I noticed she didn't sit on my furniture as if poverty might be contagious. They stayed for exactly 45 minutes. Marcus brought up the trust 3 times. Brittany nodded enthusiastically like one of those bobblehead dolls. As they were leaving, I heard Brittany whisper to Marcus, "It's smaller than I thought." She was talking about my house, my home, the place where I'd raised Marcus, where Harold died in our bedroom, where every corner held a memory. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table with Harold's calculator and added it all up. $127,000. My hands shook as I saw the number. If I'd kept that money, invested it conservatively at 4% return, I'd have over $160,000 now. I could afford the assisted living Marcus was so worried about. I could afford to live. Instead, I had $12,000 in savings and a paid-off house that my son was circling like a vulture. The next morning, Marcus called. "Mum, I'm coming over tomorrow with the papers. It's time to get this done. I've already talked to a lawyer. It's all prepared. You just need to sign." "Marcus, I want to see them first. Have my own lawyer look at them." "You don't need a lawyer, Mom. That's just wasting money. I've already had them reviewed. Do you think I'd do something to hurt you?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Did I think my son would hurt me? 6 months ago, I would have said no automatically. But something had shifted. Maybe it was adding up those numbers. Maybe it was watching him post pictures from casinos while telling me he needed money for rent. Maybe it was the way Brittany looked at my house like it was already hers. "I want to read them first, Marcus." "Fine." He sounded angry. "But Mom, at some point, you need to ask yourself why you're so suspicious of the one person who actually cares about you." He hung up. I sat there holding my phone, and for the first time in 12 years, I let myself think the thought I'd been pushing away. My son doesn't care about me. He cares about what I have left to give. The realization felt like drowning, which brings us to that moment. The papers on my kitchen table. Marcus's hand covering the text. His face, so familiar and so strange, waiting for me to sign away my security without reading the words. And me, saying, "Wait." Marcus stood up. The chair scraped against my floor, an angry sound. "You know what, Mum? I'm done. I've tried to help you. I've tried to protect you. But if you're going to treat me like some kind of criminal, then forget it. Handle your own future. When you end up in some state-run facility because you were too paranoid to let your own son help you, don't call me." He grabbed the papers and walked toward the door, and something inside me, something I didn't know still existed, spoke up. "Marcus, stop." He turned, and I saw it again, that flash of contempt. "How much have I given you?" I asked. My voice was steady. I didn't recognize it. "What?" "Money. How much money have I given you since your father died?" "I don't know. We don't keep score in families, Mom. That's what love is." $127,000, I said. "That's how much. And you're telling me you've tried to help me." His face went red. "I can't believe you. After everything—" "What everything, Marcus? What have you done for me? Specifically?" The silence stretched between us like a canyon. "You're being ridiculous," he finally said. "I visit you. I check on you. When you need money. That's not fair. Then tell me the last time you called just to talk. Tell me the last time you took me to dinner. Tell me the last time you remembered my birthday without me reminding you." He stared at me like I'd started speaking another language. "I'm not signing those papers," I said. "Not today. Not until I have a lawyer read them. And Marcus? I'm done. No more money. No more loans. No more investments. It's over." The mask dropped completely. The son I thought I knew vanished, and someone else stood in my kitchen. "You'll regret this," he said quietly. "You have no idea what you're doing. I've been protecting you, and you're too stupid to see it." Then he left, slamming the door so hard that the framed photo of him at his college graduation, the education I'd helped pay for, fell off the wall and shattered. I stood in my kitchen, shaking, staring at the broken glass. and felt something I hadn't felt in 12 years. Freedom. The silence after Marcus left felt thick enough to touch. I stood in my kitchen for what must have been 20 minutes, just staring at that broken picture frame. Glass glittered on my linoleum floor like tiny diamonds, and somewhere in my chest, something that had been locked tight for 12 years began to crack open. My hands were still shaking. I made myself a cup of tea, the cheap kind, not the fancy Earl Grey Marcus always requested when he visited. As I waited for the water to boil, I picked up the phone. I didn't know who I was going to call. I had friends once. Harold and I had couple friends, and I'd had my book club, my volunteer work at the library. But over the past 12 years, I'd let those connections fade. It's hard to maintain friendships when you're ashamed, when you can't afford to go out to lunch, when every conversation somehow circles back to your son, and you have to keep pretending everything is fine. The kettle whistled. I poured the water over my tea bag and sat down at the table where, just an hour ago, Marcus had tried to get me to sign away my house. My house. I pulled out my laptop, a 7-year-old Dell that took 5 minutes to start up, and searched. How to know if legal documents are legitimate. The first result was a law firm's website. The second was an article about elder financial abuse. Elder financial abuse. I clicked on it. The article listed warning signs. Family members asking for access to bank accounts or property pressure to sign documents without legal advice. Isolation from friends and other family. Unexplained withdrawals or financial changes. Being made to feel guilty for questioning financial decisions, I read through the list 3 times. Every single item described my relationship with Marcus. My son was financially abusing me. The words looked wrong on the screen. Abuse was what happened to other people. Abuse was dramatic, obvious. Abuse wasn't a son asking his mother for help. Was it? But then I thought about Brittany whispering about my house being smaller than she thought. I thought about Marcus's face when I said I wanted a lawyer to review the papers. That flash of rage. I thought about 12 years of emergencies and loans and promises that evaporated like morning mist. I thought about $127,000. At 9:47 p.m. that night, I did something I hadn't done in years. I called my friend Margaret. Margaret and I had been close once. We'd met at the library where we both volunteered. But after Harold died, I'd pulled away. She'd invited me to lunch, to movies, to her daughter's wedding. I'd made excuses. The truth was I couldn't afford to go, and I was too proud to say so. The phone rang 4 times. I almost hung up. Sarah? Sarah, is that you? Margaret's voice was surprised but warm. Hi, Margaret. I know it's been a long time. Are you okay? You sound upset. And then I did something I never allowed myself to do. I cried, not pretty crying, ugly, gasping sobs that came from somewhere deep in my chest. Sarah, what's wrong? Is it Marcus? Even Margaret knew. Of course she did. Everyone probably knew except me. Can I come over? I whispered. I know it's late, but I need to talk to someone. I'll put the coffee on. Margaret lived 15 minutes away in a neighborhood similar to mine. When she opened the door, she took one look at my face and pulled me into a hug. I couldn't remember the last time someone had hugged me. We sat in her kitchen, her updated kitchen with granite countertops that I'd always admired, and I told her everything. The money, the requests, the papers Marcus wanted me to sign, the way he'd looked at me when I refused. Margaret listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Sarah, I need to tell you something, and you're going to be angry at me for not saying it sooner. My stomach dropped. 5 years ago, Marcus came to see me. He told me you were struggling financially and asked if I could lend him. Lend you, he said, $5,000. He said you were too proud to ask yourself, but you needed help with property taxes. I felt the blood drain from my face. What? I said I'd rather help you directly. He got very upset, said you'd be humiliated if you knew he'd asked. He was very convincing, Sarah. Very earnest? But something felt off, so I said no. He never spoke to me again, and I noticed you and I started drifting apart right around that time. He never mentioned you, I whispered. He never said anything. I think he made sure of that. Sarah, I think he's been isolating you, making sure you don't have anyone to talk to about what he's doing. The words hit like a punch. I thought about the other friends who'd fallen away. Janet from book club, who'd stopped calling after I missed 3 meetings in a row. Meetings I'd skipped because Marcus had asked me to babysit his friend's dog for $200 that never materialized. Carol from church, who'd invited me to her grandson's birthday party the same weekend Marcus needed me to drive him to look at investment properties 3 hours away. How many times had Marcus scheduled his emergencies to conflict with my other plans? How many times had I chosen him over everyone else? What do I do? I asked Margaret. I don't even know where to start. Margaret reached across the table and took my hand. Tomorrow morning, we're going to see a lawyer. A real one. My daughter's friend practices elder law. We're going to find out exactly what Marcus was trying to get you to sign, and then we're going to make a plan. I started to protest. Lawyers were expensive. I couldn't afford. Sarah, Margaret interrupted gently, you've given your son $127,000. You can afford a lawyer, and besides, the initial consultation is free. That night, I slept at Margaret's house in her guest room. I didn't want to go home. I was afraid Marcus might come back, and I wasn't ready to face him again. I woke up at 6 a.m. with my heart pounding. I'd dreamed that I was drowning, and Marcus was standing on the shore, watching, his hand extended not to help, but to take my watch as I went under. At 9 a.m., Margaret and I sat in the office of Amanda Chen, attorney at law. She was maybe 40, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Do you have the papers your son wanted you to sign? She asked. No, he took them with him. Can you describe what you remember? I told her everything I could recall. The word trust featured prominently, Marcus being listed as trustee, something about my house. Amanda's expression grew more serious as I talked. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair. Mrs. Patterson, what your son was likely trying to get you to sign was an irrevocable trust with himself as trustee and beneficiary. If you'd signed that, you would have transferred ownership of your house to him while retaining the right to live there. But as trustee, he could have sold the property at any time. You would have had no legal recourse. The room tilted. He could have just sold my house. Yes. And there's more. Based on what you've told me about the pattern of financial requests, I believe you have grounds to pursue a case for elder financial exploitation. It's a form of abuse recognized by law. There was that word again. Abuse. What would that mean? I asked. It would mean potentially recovering some of the money he's taken from you. It would mean protecting your remaining assets. It would mean creating legal boundaries that he cannot cross. He's my son, I whispered. I know, Amanda said gently, and that makes this harder, not easier. But Mrs. Patterson, Sarah, you need to protect yourself. From what you've told me, your son sees you as an ATM, not a mother, and that behavior escalates. It doesn't stop on its own. I thought about the rage in Marcus's eyes when I'd refused to sign, the cold way he'd said I'd regret it. "What do I do first?" I asked. Amanda pulled out a legal pad. "First, we document everything. Every loan, every request, every promise he made and broke. Do you have bank statements?" "Yes, I keep everything." "Good. Second, we change your locks today. All of them. Does Marcus have a key to your house?" I nodded, feeling sick. "Locks get changed today. Third, you go to your bank and put alerts on all your accounts. You make sure Marcus is not listed as beneficiary on anything, not an authorized user on any credit cards, not a joint holder on any accounts." "He's the beneficiary on my life insurance," I said quietly. $50,000 policy. "We change that. Today. Who else is in your life? Do you have other children? Siblings?" "No. It was just Marcus. I have a niece in California, Linda. We exchange Christmas cards." "Then you might consider making Linda your beneficiary. Or a charity. Anyone but Marcus." The thought of changing my beneficiary from my son to essentially a stranger felt like admitting defeat, like admitting I'd failed as a mother. Amanda must have seen it on my face. "Sarah, you didn't fail. You loved your son. He failed you. There's a difference." We spent the next 2 hours going through everything. Amanda took notes, asked questions, and built what she called a timeline of exploitation. When we finished, she looked at me seriously. "Sarah, I need to prepare you for what's likely to happen next. When Marcus discovers you've changed the locks, that you've moved to protect your assets, he's going to escalate. Abusers don't give up control easily." "What kind of escalation?" "He might try to claim you're mentally incompetent. He might try to get power of attorney through other means. He might try to turn other family members against you if you have any. He might threaten legal action. He might, and this is important, he might suddenly become the loving, apologetic son you always wanted him to be." "What?" "It's called hoovering, like a vacuum, trying to suck you back in. When abusers feel control slipping, they often cycle back to charm. Apologies, promises to change, tears, nostalgia. It's a manipulation tactic." I thought about all the times Marcus had done exactly that. The occasional sweet text message after weeks of silence. The Christmas gift after months of taking. The "I love you, Mum," that always seemed to come right before a big ask. "How do I resist that?" I asked. "How do I stay strong when he tells me he's sorry?" Margaret, who'd been quiet, spoke up. "You call me? You call Amanda. You remember that actions matter more than words. And you remember that number, $127,000. I left Amanda's office with a folder full of documents to fill out, a list of action items, and a retainer agreement I'd signed. Her fee was $3,000 to start. It felt like a fortune. It felt like the best money I'd ever spent. The locksmith came that afternoon. He was a chatty man in his 60s named Bob, who told me about his own daughter while he worked. "She got into some trouble with drugs," he said, installing the new deadbolt on my front door. "Kept asking for money for rehab, for rent, for food. Broke my heart every time. Finally, my wife said, 'Bob, you're not helping her. You're enabling her to keep destroying herself.' Hardest thing I ever did, saying no. But it saved her life. She's been clean 4 years now." "Does she talk to you?" I asked. "Took her 2 years. 2 years of silence. Thought I'd lost her forever. But once she got clean, really clean, she came back. Apologized. We have a relationship now, a real one. Not based on money or guilt. Based on love." What if she'd never come back? Bob looked at me with understanding. "Then I'd have grieved. But at least I'd have known I loved her enough to let her face consequences. Sometimes that's the most loving thing a parent can do. When he left, I stood in my house with my new keys in my hand and tested all 3 locks. The door was secure. If only I felt the same way. That evening, my phone rang. Marcus. I stared at his name on the screen. Marcus, with a little heart emoji I'd added years ago. I didn't answer. He called again. Then again. On the 4th call, I turned my phone off. The next morning, I went to my bank. The manager, a woman named Patricia, who'd known me for 15 years, listened to my request with a carefully neutral expression. I want to add alerts to my accounts. And I need to know, is there any way my son could access my accounts? Patricia pulled up my information on her computer. Her face changed. Mrs. Patterson, you have Marcus listed as joint owner on your checking account. The floor dropped out from under me. What? Since when? She checked. Since 2016? You came in together and added him. Do you remember? I did remember. Vaguely. Marcus had convinced me it was for emergencies. What if something happens to you, Mom? What if you have a stroke? I need to be able to pay your bills. It had seemed reasonable at the time. Loving, even. Joint owner means he can withdraw any amount, any time, without your permission. Patricia said gently. He doesn't even need your signature. My savings account had $12,000. My checking account currently held $1,847, my Social Security deposit from 2 weeks ago. Remove him, I said. Right now. Remove him from everything. Patricia nodded. I'll need you to fill out some forms. And Mrs. Patterson? You might want to consider moving your money to new accounts, new account numbers. Just to be safe. It took an hour to set up completely new accounts. New checking, new savings, both with alerts set to text me for any transaction over $50. I transferred every penny from the old accounts to the new ones. As I was leaving, Patricia called me back. Mrs. Patterson? I probably shouldn't tell you this, but 3 weeks ago, Marcus came in asking about your account balances. I told him I couldn't share that information, but he seemed very interested in how much you had. He'd been planning this. The trust, the papers, the pressure. It had all been planned. I walked to my car and sat there in the parking lot, gripping the steering wheel. My phone was back on, and I had 17 missed calls from Marcus. 17. There was also a text. Mum, we need to talk. I'm worried about you. Please call me. And another. Mom, I love you. I'm sorry about yesterday. Can we start over? And another. I'm coming over tonight. We need to fix this. My hands started shaking again. I called Amanda. He says he's coming over tonight, I told her. Do you want him in your house? No. Then don't let him in. You've changed the locks. You don't have to open the door. What if he makes a scene? What if the neighbors? Let them watch. You're not doing anything wrong, Sarah. You're protecting yourself. If he becomes aggressive or won't leave, you call the police. The police? Calling the police on my own son. I know it sounds extreme, Amanda said, but I want you to start thinking about this differently. Marcus isn't acting like your son right now. He's acting like someone who's trying to steal from you. Would you let a stranger into your house if they were trying to steal from you? No. Then don't let Marcus in either. That night, I waited. Margaret offered to stay with me, but I said no. I needed to do this myself. Marcus arrived at 7:15 p.m. I heard his car in the driveway, the slam of his door. He tried his key in the lock. Once, twice. Then harder, rattling the knob. Mom! Mom, open the door! I stood in my living room, frozen. Mom, I know you're in there. Your car's here. What's going on? Why doesn't my key work? I walked to the door but didn't open it. Marcus, go home. Mom, please. Let's talk about this. I'm sorry about yesterday. I was frustrated, but I love you. You know I love you. Hoovering. That's what Amanda had called it. I'm not opening the door, Marcus. Why? What's wrong with you? Are you having some kind of episode? Mum, I'm worried about you. Maybe we should call a doctor. And there it was. The threat. The suggestion that I was mentally unstable. I'm fine, Marcus. I'm clearer than I've been in years. We can talk, but not tonight. I need space. Space? From your own son? What has gotten into you? I could hear the anger creeping into his voice, the charm wearing thin. Did someone talk to you? Did Margaret say something? Because, Mom, you need to be careful. People take advantage of older women living alone. They try to isolate you from your family. The irony was so thick I almost laughed. Good night, Marcus. Mum, if you don't open this door right now, I swear to God. You'll what? I asked. And I didn't recognize my own voice. It was strong, clear. You'll stop calling? You'll stop visiting? Marcus, you only call when you want money. You only visit when you need something. So what exactly are you threatening me with? Silence. Then, you're going to regret this. I'm the only family you have. When you're old and sick and alone, don't come crying to me. I'm already old, Marcus. I'm already alone. You made sure of that. The only difference is now I see it clearly. I heard him kick my door. The thud echoed through the house. You're crazy. You're a crazy old woman and everyone's going to know it. Then his footsteps. Retreating. His car engine. The screech of tires as he pulled away too fast. I sank down onto my couch and shook for 20 minutes straight. But I'd done it. I'd stood my ground. The next morning, I woke to find my doorstep covered in damage. Marcus had returned in the night. My flower pots were smashed, dirt everywhere. My welcome mat was torn in half. He'd keyed the word ungrateful into the paint on my garage door in letters a foot high. I took pictures of everything with my phone. Then I called Amanda. This is harassment, she said. You can file a police report. You probably should. He's my son. He's a vandal. He's trying to intimidate you into submission, Sarah. This is what I meant by escalation. I called the police. The officer who came was young, maybe 30, with kind eyes that reminded me of Harold. Your son did this? He asked, looking at my garage. Yes. Do you want to press charges? Did I? This was the moment. The point of no return. I thought about $127,000. I thought about the papers Marcus wanted me to sign without reading. I thought about his face when I said no. That flash of pure contempt. Yes, I said. I want to press charges. The officer wrote everything down. He took pictures. He gave me a case number. Mom, has your son threatened you physically? No, just financially, emotionally. Has he tried to access your home since you asked him to stay away? Last night, he came and damaged my property. You might want to consider a restraining order. We can help you with that. A restraining order against my own son. 2 weeks passed. 2 weeks of silence from Marcus, which somehow felt worse than his anger. I kept expecting him to show up, to call, to do something. Amanda filed the police report with the court. She sent Marcus a formal cease and desist letter. She began the process of documenting the financial exploitation. I spent those 2 weeks going through 12 years of bank statements, credit card bills, and records. Every loan, every gift, every emergency. I created a spreadsheet that would have made Harold proud. The total wasn't $127,000. It was $142,000. I'd missed some. A $5,000 loan for Marcus's friend, who supposedly had cancer. A $3,000 investment in a business I'd never heard of again. $7,000 worth of travel expenses when Marcus was supposedly looking at business opportunities. $142,000. If I'd kept that money, invested it conservatively, I'd have over $180,000 right now. I could retire comfortably. I could travel. I could do all the things Harold and I had planned to do together. Instead, I was 68 years old, with $12,000 in the bank and a garage door that said, "Ungrateful." But I also had something I hadn't had in 12 years. Clarity. On day 15, Marcus called from a number I didn't recognize. I answered without thinking. "Mum?" His voice was different, soft, broken. "Marcus?" "Mum, I've been doing a lot of thinking. I owe you an apology. A real one. Can I come over? Can we talk?" This was it. The hoovering Amanda had warned me about. "What do you want to apologize for, specifically?" I asked. For everything. For taking you for granted. For the money. For not being a better son. Mum, I've been going through some stuff, and I took it out on you. But I want to make it right. I want to pay you back. Pay me back. The words I'd dreamed of hearing for 12 years. "How?" I asked. "How will you pay me back $142,000? Silence. "What?" "It's not that much. It's exactly that much. I went through the records, Marcus. Every loan, every crisis, every emergency, $142,000. "Mom, you're exaggerating. You're remembering wrong." "I have bank statements, cancelled checks, wire transfer receipts. It's $142,000. More silence. When he spoke again, the softness was gone. "Well, I don't have that kind of money. And honestly, Mom, most of that was gifts. You gave it freely. You can't just decide now that you want it back." "Freely? You told me they were loans, Marcus. You said you'd pay me back." "I don't remember saying that." "Of course you don't." "Look, I'm trying to apologize here, and you're being difficult. I'm trying to rebuild our relationship." "No, you're trying to get access to my house, to my accounts, to whatever I have left, and I'm not giving it to you." "You're paranoid. Someone's been putting ideas in your head." "The only idea in my head is the truth, Marcus. The truth I've been avoiding for 12 years. "What truth?" His voice was sharp now. "That you don't love me. You love what you can take from me, and I'm done being taken from." I hung up. My hands were shaking, but this time it wasn't from fear. It was from adrenaline, from power, from finally saying what I needed to say. 3 days later, I received a certified letter. Marcus was suing me. He was suing me for elder abuse and unlawful withholding of family property. He claimed I'd promised him the house. He claimed he'd been taking care of me for years and I owed him compensation. He claimed I was mentally incompetent and he needed to be appointed my guardian. I sat in my kitchen reading the legal papers and I started laughing. Not because it was funny, but because it was so absurd. My son, who'd taken $142,000 from me, was suing me for elder abuse. I called Amanda. "This is good," she said. "Good? How is this good?" "Because now we go to court. Now we present our evidence. Now a judge sees everything. This is exactly what we wanted, Sarah. Marcus just handed us the perfect opportunity." "But what if he wins? What if they believe him?" "They won't. We have documentation. We have evidence. We have the truth. Trust me on this." 2 months later, we had our first court date. I walked into that courtroom with Margaret on one side and Amanda on the other. Marcus was there with a lawyer he probably couldn't afford. He looked good, dressed in a suit, hair neat, playing the part of the concerned son. When he saw me, he smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. I'd imagined something grand like on TV. Oak panels, high ceilings, dramatic lighting. Instead, it was a cramped room with fluorescent lights that hummed and beige walls that had seen better days. Judge Patricia Hendricks presided. She was in her late 50s, with reading glasses perched on her nose and an expression that suggested she'd heard every lie and excuse the world had to offer. Marcus's lawyer stood first. His name was David Brennan, and he wore an expensive suit that I knew Marcus couldn't afford. I wondered briefly who'd paid for it, then realized probably another loan from someone, or credit cards he'd never pay off. "Your Honor," Brennan began, "my client is here today with a heavy heart. Marcus Patterson is a devoted son who has spent the past 12 years caring for his elderly mother, Sarah Patterson. He's managed her finances, helped her with bills, ensured she was safe in her home. And now, tragically, Mrs. Patterson has fallen under the influence of outside parties who have convinced her that her own son, her only child, is trying to exploit her." I felt Amanda's hand on my arm, steadying me. "Mr. Patterson has documentation showing that he's been authorized to help manage his mother's accounts. He's been acting with her full knowledge and consent. However, in recent months, Mrs. Patterson has exhibited signs of cognitive decline. She's become paranoid, accusatory, and has made wild claims about money that she freely gave to her son. She's isolated herself from her only family member and aligned herself with individuals who may have their own financial interests in mind." Brennan gestured to some papers. "We're asking the court to appoint Mr. Patterson as his mother's guardian so he can ensure she gets the mental health care she needs, and so her assets are properly managed before she's taken advantage of by unscrupulous parties." It was masterful, really. The way he'd twisted everything, made my clarity look like confusion, made my protection look like paranoia, made Marcus's theft look like caregiving. Amanda stood. She was half Brennan's size, but twice as commanding. "Your Honor, Mr. Brennan has presented a compelling story. It's also completely false. What we have here is not an elderly woman in decline. We have a woman who finally woke up to 12 years of systematic financial exploitation. The evidence will show that Marcus Patterson has extracted $142,000 from his mother, money given under false pretenses, money promised to be repaid, money taken through manipulation and emotional coercion." Amanda pulled out a thick folder. "We have bank statements, cancelled checks, wire transfer receipts, and most importantly, we have text messages and emails where Mr. Patterson explicitly calls these transfers loans that he would pay back. We have evidence that he attempted to get Mrs. Patterson to sign over her house, her only remaining significant asset, without allowing her to review the documents or seek legal counsel. And when she refused, he vandalized her property." She showed the photos of my smashed flower pots, my destroyed welcome mat. The word ungrateful keyed into my garage door. "This is not a devoted son, Your Honor. This is a predator who happened to be born to his victim." Judge Hendricks looked at both lawyers. "I'm going to hear from witnesses. Mr. Brennan, call your first witness." Marcus took the stand. He was sworn in, settled into the chair, and put on a mask I'd seen 1,000 times. The dutiful son, the caring child, the victim of misunderstanding. Brennan led him through his testimony. Marcus painted a picture of himself as my caretaker. He claimed he'd visited me weekly. A lie, It had been monthly at best, usually only when he needed something. He said he'd helped with my bills. Another lie. I'd always managed my own finances. He claimed I'd been showing signs of confusion for years. Can you give us an example? Brennan asked. Well, she started accusing me of taking money from her, money she'd given me freely. She couldn't remember conversations we'd had, decisions she'd made. One time, she called me 3 times in one day, asking if I'd picked up her prescriptions. I hadn't. She'd already picked them up herself. She was just confused. This was news to me. I'd never asked Marcus to pick up prescriptions. I'd never called him 3 times in one day about anything. And the house? Brennan continued. The trust documents. Can you explain what happened there? Marcus's face arranged itself into an expression of wounded concern. I was trying to protect her. Mom has dementia. I know she hasn't been officially diagnosed, but it's obvious. I wanted to make sure her house was in a trust, so if she needed nursing care, Medicaid wouldn't take it. It's called Medicaid planning, and it's completely legal and normal. But when I brought her the papers, she became paranoid, accused me of trying to steal from her. It was heartbreaking. Did you vandalize her property, as she claims? Absolutely not. I would never do that to my mother. I love her. I think one of her new friends did it to make me look bad, to drive a wedge between us. The lies came so easily, so smoothly. If I didn't know the truth, I might have believed him myself. Then Amanda stood for cross-examination. Mr. Patterson, you testified that you visited your mother weekly. Is that correct? Yes. And during these weekly visits, what did you typically do? We'd have dinner, talk. I'd check on her, make sure she was okay. Who cooked these dinners? Marcus hesitated, just for a second. Usually, Mom. She's a great cook. So you came weekly, and your mother cooked for you? Well, yes. But I was there to check on her. Did you ever bring groceries? Pay for the meals you ate? Sometimes. I don't remember every specific instance. Amanda pulled out a document. I have your mother's grocery receipts for the past 3 years. Not once is there a credit card or payment from you. Not once did you reimburse her for these weekly meals you claim were about caring for her. Marcus's face reddened. I helped her in other ways. Let's talk about those ways. You said you helped with her bills. Which bills, specifically? Her utility bills, her phone bill, general household expenses. Your Honor, I'd like to enter into evidence Mrs. Patterson's bank records showing all bill payments for the past 5 years. Amanda handed over another folder. You'll see that every single payment was made from Mrs. Patterson's account, with her signature or her online authorization. Mr. Patterson's name appears nowhere except as a recipient of funds. She turned back to Marcus. Mr. Patterson, over the past 12 years, how much money has your mother given you? I don't know. We didn't keep track. It was just family helping family. Let me help refresh your memory. According to bank records, wire transfers, cancelled checks, and credit card statements, your mother has given you $142,000. Does that sound accurate? That can't be right. It wasn't that much. So you do keep track? No, I know it wasn't that much. How much was it then? I don't know exact numbers. But you know it wasn't $142,000? It's not like that. Most of that was gifts. Birthday gifts, Christmas gifts. Birthday gifts of $15,000, Christmas gifts of $8,000. Amanda's voice was sharp. Mr. Patterson, I have here a text message you sent your mother on March 15th, 2019. Would you like to read it? She showed him a printed screenshot. I knew which one it was. I'd included it in the documentation. Marcus's face went pale. "Read it aloud, please," Judge Hendricks instructed. Marcus cleared his throat. It says, "Mum, I know I still owe you from last month, but this is a real emergency. I swear I'll pay you back this time. I know I've been bad about it, but I mean it. I'll pay back everything. Just please, I need $3,000 by Friday." "Did you pay her back?" Amanda asked. Things came up. I intended to. Yes or no? Did you pay her back the $3,000? No. Did you pay her back any of the $142,000? I bought her things sometimes. Gifts. Mr. Patterson. Amanda's voice cut through his stammering. In 12 years, have you ever given your mother money? Any amount? Even $20? Silence. Answer the question, Judge Hendricks said. No, Marcus whispered. But that's not fair. She didn't need money. She has Social Security. She has Social Security of $2,100 per month. You took $142,000 from her. That's approximately 10 years of her Social Security income. Meanwhile, what's your annual income? I don't see how that's relevant. Answer the question. It varies. I'm in sales. Some years are better than others. According to your own tax returns, which we subpoenaed, you've made an average of $87,000 per year for the past 5 years. Is that correct? Marcus looked at his lawyer, who nodded reluctantly. Yes. So you made $87,000 per year, but you needed $142,000 from your mother, who lives on $2,100 per month. I had expenses. Did those expenses include trips to Atlantic City? I don't. Amanda pulled out more printouts. I have your Facebook posts, Mr. Patterson. February 2021, you posted photos from Atlantic City with the caption, "High Roller Weekend." March 2022, a picture of you at a blackjack table with the caption, "Feeling lucky." Should I continue? Everyone needs to relax sometimes. With your mother's money she gave you for rent emergencies and medical bills? Marcus's composure cracked. She gave it to me. She offered. What was I supposed to say? No? Yes, Amanda said simply. You were supposed to say yes, no, or better yet, you were supposed to act like a son instead of a leech. Objection! Brennan jumped up. Counsel is being argumentative. Sustained, Judge Hendricks said, but she was looking at Marcus with an expression that made my heart surge with hope. But Ms. Chen, proceed with your questioning. Let's talk about the trust documents. You said you were trying to protect your mother's house for Medicaid planning? Yes. Are you a lawyer? No. Are you a certified financial planner? No. Then where did you get this legal advice about Medicaid planning? I researched it online. And this lawyer who supposedly prepared the documents? What was their name? Marcus hesitated too long. You don't remember the name of the lawyer who prepared legal documents for your mother's estate? It was a friend of a friend. I don't remember. Because there was no lawyer, was there? You prepared those documents yourself, didn't you? No. I found templates online. Templates. You were going to have your mother sign documents that would transfer her $340,000 house to you based on templates you found online. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like, Mr. Patterson? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like a son who's already taken $142,000 from his mother was making one final grab for her last significant asset. Marcus's lawyer objected again, but the damage was done. Marcus's face was red, his hands shaking. The mask had slipped completely. "No further questions," Amanda said. Next came the witnesses. Brennan called Marcus's girlfriend, Brittany. She wore a tight dress and too much makeup, and she testified that she'd met me several times, and I'd seemed confused and forgetful. "Can you give an example?" Brennan asked. "Well, one time she asked me my name 3 times in one conversation, and she kept talking about her husband like he was still alive, which was really sad. I'd met Brittany once, and I'd mentioned Harold in the past tense, telling a story about something he and I had done years ago. But in Brittany's version, I was a confused old woman who didn't know her own husband was dead." Amanda's cross-examination was brief. "Ms. Collins, how many times have you met Mrs. Patterson?" A few times." "How many is a few? 3, 5, 10? Maybe 2 or 3? And during these 2 or 3 meetings, you diagnosed her with cognitive decline?" "I didn't diagnose anything. I just noticed." "You just noticed? Are you a doctor, Ms. Collins?" "No." "A psychologist?" "No." "What do you do for a living?" Brittany shifted uncomfortably. "I'm between jobs right now." "How long have you been dating Mr. Patterson?" "About 8 months." "And in those 8 months, has Mr. Patterson given you money?" "Objection! Relevance!" Brennan was on his feet. "I'm establishing the witness's potential bias, Your Honor." "I'll allow it. Answer the question, Ms. Collins." Brittany looked at Marcus, who gave her a tight nod. "He's helped me out a few times." "How much?" "I don't know exactly. Approximately. Maybe $5,000 total." "And where do you think Mr. Patterson got that $5,000? "Objection. Withdrawn. No further questions." Brennan called 2 more witnesses, a friend of Marcus's who testified that Marcus was always talking about his mom, though he couldn't provide specific examples, and a neighbor of mine who said I'd seemed distant lately because I'd been avoiding people out of shame about what Marcus was doing to me. Then Amanda called our witnesses. First was Margaret. She sat in the witness box with her spine straight and her voice firm. "How long have you known Sarah Patterson?" Amanda asked. 15 years. We met volunteering at the library." "Can you describe your relationship?" "We were close friends. Until about 5 years ago, we spent time together regularly. Book club, lunch, movies. Then Sarah started pulling away." "Why do you think that was?" "I didn't know at the time. But looking back, I think she was ashamed. Ashamed that she couldn't afford to keep up socially because she was giving all her money to Marcus." "Objection! Speculation!" Brennan called out. "Your Honor, I'm establishing the witness's observations of the relationship." Amanda countered. "I'll allow it, but Ms. Peterson, stick to what you observed directly." Margaret nodded. "Sarah stopped coming to book club. She made excuses about being tired or busy. When I invited her to lunch, she always suggested meeting at her house instead of going out. One time, I surprised her with restaurant gift cards for her birthday, and she cried. She said it had been so long since someone had given her something instead of asking for something." "Did Marcus ever ask you for money?" "Yes. About 5 years ago. He came to my house and told me Sarah needed $5,000 for property taxes, but was too proud to ask. He wanted me to lend it to him so he could give it to her." "What did you say?" "I said I'd rather help Sarah directly. He became very upset, said I'd embarrass her. I stood my ground, and after that, Marcus stopped speaking to me, and I noticed Sarah and I started drifting apart right around that time." "Do you believe Sarah Patterson has dementia or cognitive decline?" Absolutely not. I've spent time with her recently, and she's as sharp as ever. Sharper, maybe, like she finally woke up from a bad dream. Brennan's cross-examination focused on trying to paint Margaret as someone who was interfering in our family. But Margaret held firm. Next was Patricia, from the bank. Can you describe Mr. Patterson's interactions with your bank regarding his mother's accounts? Amanda asked. He came in about a month before Mrs. Patterson closed her old accounts. He wanted to know her account balances. I told him I couldn't share that information without her present. He became agitated, said he was worried about her spending and needed to make sure she had enough money. What happened when Mrs. Patterson came in to change her accounts? She removed Marcus as joint owner and created entirely new accounts. She was very clear-headed about it. She knew exactly what she wanted to do and why. In your professional opinion, did Mrs. Patterson show any signs of cognitive decline during that transaction? None whatsoever. She was more organized than most of my clients. She had documentation. She asked intelligent questions about account features and interest rates. She was completely competent. Then came Dr. Raymond Torres, my primary care physician for 10 years. Dr. Torres: when was the last time you saw Mrs. Patterson? Amanda asked. 2 weeks ago for her annual physical. Did you conduct any cognitive assessments? Yes, I always do with patients over 65. Mrs. Patterson scored perfectly on the mini mental state examination. Her memory, reasoning, and judgment are all within normal ranges for her age. Have you ever seen any indication of dementia or cognitive decline? No. In fact, her cognitive function has been consistently excellent over the years I've treated her. Did you discuss her family situation? She told me about the financial issues with her son. From a medical perspective, I saw no evidence of paranoia or delusion. She presented facts calmly, with documentation. Her affect was appropriate. Her thinking was clear and organized. Brennan tried to suggest that I might have been having a good day when I saw Dr. Torres, but the doctor shut that down quickly. Dementia doesn't work that way, Dr. Torres said firmly. If Mrs. Patterson had cognitive decline severe enough to warrant guardianship, I would see evidence of it in her medical visits, in her ability to manage her medications, in her daily functioning. I see none of that. Amanda called one more witness. Linda, my niece from California. I hadn't seen Linda in person in 5 years, but she'd flown out for the hearing. When I saw her in the courtroom, I almost cried. Ms. Morrison, when was the last time you spoke with your Aunt Sarah? Amanda asked. We talk on the phone every few months. We've always sent Christmas cards, birthday cards. Has Marcus Patterson ever contacted you about his mother's condition? Never. Not once in 12 years. If he was so concerned about her health, you'd think he'd reach out to other family members. Has Sarah ever seemed confused or cognitively impaired in your conversations? No. She's always been sharp. She remembers details about my kids, asks about my work. This Christmas, she even suggested a book for my daughter that turned out to be perfect. That doesn't sound like dementia to me. Why did you fly out from California for this hearing? Linda looked directly at Marcus. Because when Sarah finally called and told me what was happening, I felt terrible that I hadn't known sooner. She was too ashamed to ask for help, too ashamed to tell anyone that her own son was bleeding her dry. I'm here because family protects family, and what Marcus has done is not family. It's theft. The courtroom was silent. Finally, Amanda called me to the stand. I walked up on shaking legs and put my hand on the Bible. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. I sat down and looked at the courtroom. Marcus avoided my eyes. The judge watched me carefully. "Mrs. Patterson?" Amanda began gently. "Can you tell us how this all started?" I took a deep breath. 2 years after my husband died, Marcus asked for $500. He said it was just until his paycheck cleared. I gave it to him. He never paid it back. And then there was another emergency. And another. And I kept giving because I thought that's what mothers do. I thought if I loved him enough, supported him enough, he'd finally become the son I needed him to be. "How much have you given him total?" $142,000. "How much has he paid back?" "Nothing. Not $1. "How has this affected your life?" I felt tears coming but pushed them back. "I can't afford dental work I need. I eat peanut butter sandwiches for dinner. I stopped seeing my friends because I couldn't afford to go out. I postponed replacing my roof for 2 years. It leaked and damaged my ceiling, but I fixed it myself with buckets and duct tape. All while Marcus was posting pictures from casinos and vacations." "Did you give this money freely, as Mr. Patterson claims?" "I gave it because he told me he needed it. He told me it was emergencies. He told me he'd pay me back. He told me he loved me. And I believed him because he's my son, and I wanted it to be true." "Do you believe you have dementia?" "No." "Why do you think your son is claiming you do?" I looked at Marcus for the first time. He was staring at the table. "Because it's easier than admitting what he really did. It's easier to say I'm crazy than to say he spent 12 years stealing from his mother." Amanda showed me the trust documents. "Had you ever seen these before Marcus tried to get you to sign them?" "No." "Did he explain what they were?" "He said it was to protect my house. He covered the text with his hand and told me to just sign. When I said I wanted to read them first, he became angry." "What did that anger look like?" "He told me I didn't trust him. He said I'd regret it. He left and came back that night and destroyed my property. He keyed the word ungrateful into my garage door." I showed the photos again. "Mrs. Patterson, why did you finally say no?" This was the question, the one that mattered most. Because I added it up. I sat down with 12 years of bank statements and saw it in black and white. $142,000. And I realized that if I'd kept that money, I could take care of myself. I could live comfortably. I could have the life Harold and I planned. Instead, I was one emergency away from losing everything, and my son, my only child, saw me as an ATM, not a person, not his mother, just a source of money. And when the money was almost gone, he tried to take the only thing I had left. My voice broke. I said no, because I finally understood that I deserved better. That I'd spent 12 years trying to earn my son's love with money, and it didn't work. Because you can't buy love. You can only buy silence and resentment and the temporary presence of someone who's using you. The courtroom was absolutely silent. "Do you love your son?" Amanda asked softly. I looked at Marcus. Really looked at him. "I love the son I thought I had, the son I hoped he'd become. But that son doesn't exist. The man sitting over there? I don't know who he is anymore. Maybe I never did." Brennan's cross-examination was brutal. He asked if I'd ever been diagnosed with depression. Yes, after Harold died. Was I supposed to not grieve? He asked if I was on any medications, blood pressure medication, completely normal for my age. He brought up the fact that I'd become isolated from friends because Marcus had systematically removed them from my life. "Mrs. Patterson, isn't it true that you became paranoid about your son after spending time with Margaret Peterson, who has her own agenda?" "What agenda would that be?" I asked. "Perhaps she wants to control your estate." "Margaret has her own money, She doesn't need mine. The only person who's been trying to control my estate is my son. You've accused Mr. Patterson of terrible things, of being a thief, a manipulator. Doesn't it seem more likely that you're confused about the nature of these transactions? I'm not confused. I have receipts. I have bank statements. I have text messages where Marcus explicitly calls them loans. I'm many things, Mr. Brennan, but I'm not confused. You're accusing your son of stealing from you, yet you gave him money freely for years. Why the sudden change? Because I finally saw the pattern, because I finally admitted to myself what was happening, because denial has a breaking point, and I reached mine. Isn't it possible that you're being influenced by others who don't have your best interests at heart? The only person who hasn't had my best interests at heart is sitting right over there. I pointed at Marcus. I gave him everything. Everything. And it still wasn't enough. So yes, I finally listened to someone else. I listened to the voice inside me that I'd been ignoring for 12 years. The voice that said, "You deserve better than this." When I stepped down from the witness stand, my legs were shaking so badly I could barely walk. Margaret steadied me as I returned to my seat. Judge Hendricks called a 15-minute recess. I sat in the hallway, and Linda brought me water. "You did great, Aunt Sarah," she whispered. "You told the truth." When we returned, the judge delivered her decision. "I've listened to testimony from both sides. I've reviewed the evidence. And I'm going to be very clear. This court finds no evidence that Sarah Patterson is cognitively impaired, mentally incompetent, or in need of a guardian." My heart soared. What I do see is a pattern of financial exploitation. Mr. Patterson, you took $142,000 from your mother over 12 years under false pretenses. You called them loans. You promised to pay them back. You didn't. That's not generosity. That's theft dressed up in family obligation. Marcus's face went white. Furthermore, your attempt to get Mrs. Patterson to sign trust documents without legal review or explanation was, at minimum, deeply inappropriate and possibly fraudulent. The vandalism of her property and your subsequent harassment demonstrate that when you couldn't manipulate her, you tried to intimidate her. Judge Hendricks looked directly at Marcus. "Mr. Patterson, I'm dismissing your petition for guardianship. Not only that, but I'm ordering you to stay at least 500 feet away from your mother, unless she explicitly invites contact. I'm also ordering you to pay restitution of $142,000, plus court costs, within 5 years. You'll make monthly payments, and if you default, Mrs. Patterson can pursue wage garnishment." "Your Honor," Brennan started to protest. "I'm not finished. I'm also referring this case to the District Attorney's Office for possible criminal charges related to elder financial exploitation. This behavior is unconscionable, and it needs to have consequences." She turned to me. "Mrs. Patterson, I'm sorry for what you've endured. No one should have to sue their own child to protect themselves. But you did the right thing. You stood up for yourself. Don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise." The gavel came down. It was over. The courtroom emptied slowly. I sat in my chair, unable to move, unable to process what had just happened. Margaret had her arm around me. Linda was crying. Amanda was gathering her papers with a small, satisfied smile. Marcus stood across the room, his lawyer speaking urgently into his ear. For just a moment, our eyes met. I expected to see anger, maybe defiance. Instead, I saw something I'd never seen before. Fear. Not fear of consequences. Fear of being truly, finally seen for exactly what he was. He looked away first. Outside the courthouse, the afternoon sun felt different. Brighter, somehow. Or maybe I was different. You did it, Margaret said, squeezing my hand. You actually did it. We did it? I corrected. I couldn't have done this without you. Linda hugged me tight. I'm staying for a few days. We have 12 years of catching up to do. And Aunt Sarah? I want you to come visit us in California. Really visit. Stay for a month. Meet your great nieces properly. They ask about you all the time. I'd like that, I said. And I meant it. Amanda approached, professional as ever, but with warmth in her eyes. The restraining order goes into effect immediately. If Marcus contacts you in any way, you call the police. The restitution payments will start next month. $2,850 per month for 5 years. It won't be easy to collect, but we'll make sure he pays. Do you think he will? I asked. Pay, I mean? He doesn't have a choice. We can garnish his wages. And honestly, Sarah, even if you never see a dime of that money, you won. You got your life back. You got your dignity back. That's worth more than $142,000. She was right, but I hoped I'd get the money too. That night, Linda, Margaret, and I had dinner at my house. Real dinner, not peanut butter sandwiches. Margaret brought lasagna, Linda brought wine, and I made a salad from vegetables I'd actually bought fresh instead of whatever was on sale. Tell me about the girls, I said to Linda. Tell me everything. She pulled out her phone and showed me pictures. My great-nieces, Emma, 12, and Sophie, 9. Beautiful girls with their whole lives ahead of them. Emma wants to be a veterinarian, Linda said. Sophie changes her mind every week. Last week it was astronaut. This week it's baker. They have time to figure it out, I said. They ask about you, Linda repeated. Emma especially. She wants to know why we don't see you more. What do you tell her? I used to say you were busy. But Sarah, I'm going to tell her the truth now. I'm going to tell her that sometimes family makes mistakes, that sometimes we don't speak up when we should, that I should have checked on you more, should have noticed something was wrong. You couldn't have known. I should have tried harder. We exchanged Christmas cards, for God's sake. That's not family. That's strangers being polite. Margaret refilled our wine glasses. Here's what I want to know. What happens now? What does Sarah Patterson do with her freedom? I thought about it. For 12 years, my life had revolved around Marcus's next crisis, next demand, next disappointment. What did I do now? I'm getting my teeth fixed, I said. That dental work I've been putting off, I'm doing it. They both laughed. And I'm fixing my garage door, getting it painted properly, maybe a nice blue instead of beige. What else? Linda asked. I'm coming to California. I'm meeting those girls properly. I paused, feeling something swell in my chest. I'm going to live. Really live, not survive. Not wait for the next disaster. Live. We toasted to that. The first restitution payment arrived 6 weeks later. $2,850 deposited directly into my account. I stared at the notification on my phone for a full minute. It was real. It was happening. I called Amanda. He actually paid. Of course he did. The court doesn't give him a choice. If he misses a payment, we'll garnish his wages. That first payment I put toward my dental work. $1,800 for a crown I'd needed for 3 years. The rest went into savings. The second payment came on time too. And the third. I learned later, through a mutual acquaintance, that Marcus had to sell his truck. The BMW had been repossessed years ago, but he'd bought a newer truck, probably with money he'd taken from me. Now it was gone. I felt no satisfaction in this, no triumph, just emptiness where anger used to be. I also learned he and Brittany had broken up. Apparently, when the money stopped flowing, she'd found someone else to leech from. I almost felt sorry for Marcus. Almost. 3 months after the court ruling, I flew to California. Linda picked me up at the airport, and when we pulled up to her house, Emma and Sophie burst through the front door. "Great Aunt Sarah?" Sophie launched herself at me before I'd even gotten out of the car. Emma was more reserved but smiled wide. "We made cookies. Linda said you like chocolate chip." "I love chocolate chip," I said. That week, I learned about Emma's love of horses and Sophie's obsession with baking shows. I went to Emma's soccer game and helped Sophie make cupcakes that turned out lopsided but delicious. I met Linda's husband, Tom, properly for the first time. A kind man who made terrible dad jokes and looked at Linda like she hung the moon. This was family. Real family. Not transactions and obligations, but connection and love freely given. On my last night, Emma asked me about Harold. What was Great Uncle Harold like? I pulled out my phone and showed her pictures. Harold and me on our wedding day. Harold holding newborn Marcus. Harold in his garden, covered in dirt and grinning. He was patient, I said, and kind. He always saw the best in people, sometimes too much. "Is that why you stayed with Marcus so long?" Emma asked. She was 12, but sharp as a tack. "Maybe. Your great-uncle always believed Marcus would grow up eventually, become responsible. I think I kept believing that too, even after Harold was gone. Like if I just gave enough, loved enough, it would finally happen." "But it didn't," Emma said. "No, it didn't. And I learned that you can't love someone into being a good person. They have to choose it themselves." "Are you sad?" Sophie asked. "About Marcus?" I thought about it honestly. I'm sad about what could have been, about the son I thought I had. But I'm not sad about standing up for myself. That was the best thing I've ever done. 6 months after the trial, I was in my garden. Harold's garden, really, though I'd kept it up, when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Mum?" My heart stopped. Marcus. He was violating the restraining order by calling me. "Marcus, you're not supposed to contact me." I know. I just wanted to say something. You can hang up after if you want." I should have hung up immediately, called the police, reported the violation. Instead, I waited. "I'm sorry," he said. The words sounded strange in his mouth. Foreign. "I'm sorry for what I did. For all of it. You were right. About everything." Silence stretched between us. "I've been in therapy," he continued. "Court ordered at first, but I'm still going. And I'm starting to understand what I did, how I treated you. Mom, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect anything. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. I see what I was." "Was?" I asked quietly. What I am. I'm trying to change. I got a steady job. I'm making the payments. I stopped gambling. I'm trying to be better." I sat down on Harold's garden bench. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you deserved to hear it. You deserved to hear that none of it was your fault. You were a good mother. You are a good mother. I was just a terrible son." Tears ran down my face. I'd waited 12 years to hear something like this. And now that I was hearing it, I didn't know how to feel. "I need to go," I said. "Okay, I understand. I love you, Mom. I know I never showed it, but I do." "Marcus," I said, "you're violating the restraining order by calling me. If you really want to change, you need to respect boundaries. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard." You're right. I'm sorry. I won't call again." He hung up. I sat in the garden for an hour, just thinking. Was he sincere? Was this another manipulation? Was it possible for people to really change? I didn't know. Maybe I'd never know. What I did know was this. I wasn't going to let hope make me vulnerable again. If Marcus really changed, truly changed, time would tell. Years would tell. Actions would tell. But words were easy. 1 year after the trial, I threw myself a party. Not a birthday party, though my 69th birthday had just passed. This was a freedom party. A 1 year of taking my life back party. Margaret came, of course. Linda flew out with the girls. I invited Patricia from the bank, Dr. Torres, even Amanda the lawyer. My book club friends came, the ones I'd been avoiding for years. My neighbour Janet came, the one who'd testified about me seeming distant. "I owe you an apology," Janet said when she arrived. I should have asked what was wrong instead of just making assumptions. "You didn't know," I said. I hid it well. But neighbours should notice, should care. I'm sorry I didn't. We hugged, and I felt another piece of the past heal over. The party was in my backyard. I'd hired a caterer, an expense I could finally afford again. There was music, laughter, too much wine, and a cake that said, "Freedom tastes sweet." As the sun set, Margaret stood up and clinked her glass. "A toast," she said, "to Sarah Patterson, who taught us all that it's never too late to stand up for yourself. That family is who loves you, not who shares your blood, and that the bravest thing you can do is say no." Everyone raised their glasses. "To Sarah!" I looked around at these people, some old friends, some new, all of them here because they wanted to be, not because they wanted something from me. This was what $142,000 had bought me in the end. Not a son's love. I'd never had that, not really. But self-respect, dignity, freedom, and the knowledge that I was worth more than I'd ever let myself believe. The restitution payments continued like clockwork. After 2 years, Marcus had paid back $68,400. He never called again, never violated the restraining order. I'd see occasional updates through mutual acquaintances. He was still working his steady job, still in therapy, still making payments. Part of me wondered if he'd ever ask to reconnect, if he'd ever request that I lift the restraining order. Another part of me hoped he wouldn't. Not because I was angry anymore. The anger had faded to something quieter, sadder, but because I didn't know if I could trust myself around him. Didn't know if I could maintain my boundaries if he turned on the charm, if he apologized convincingly enough, if he cried and said he needed me. Better to keep the distance. Better to stay safe. On what would have been my 45th wedding anniversary, I visited Harold's grave. I brought flowers, real ones from a florist, not grocery store carnations. I sat on the grass beside his headstone and talked to him like I used to. "You were right about some things," I said, "and wrong about others. You always believed Marcus would grow up, that he just needed time. But Harold, some people don't grow up. Some people just get older while staying the same inside." The wind rustled through the cemetery trees. I stood up for myself. Finally. I know it took me too long, but I did it. And I think you'd be proud of me for that, even if it meant going against our son. I laid the flowers at the base of the headstone. "I miss you every day, but I'm not drowning in it anymore. I'm living again, really living. And I think that's what you'd want for me." I stayed until the sun started to set, then drove home to my house with its blue garage door and new locks and garden full of flowers I'd planted myself. 3 years after the trial, I received a letter. Not from Marcus. He'd honored the restraining order completely. This letter was from the district attorney's office. They'd decided not to pursue criminal charges against Marcus. The financial exploitation was clear. But because I'd given the money willingly, even under false pretenses, and because he was making restitution payments, they felt a criminal case wouldn't serve the public interest. I read the letter twice, waiting for anger to surface. It didn't come. The truth was, I didn't need Marcus to go to jail. I didn't need him to suffer. I just needed to be free from him. And I was. The restitution payments were enough. The court's acknowledgement that I'd been wronged was enough. My freedom was enough. On my 71st birthday, Emma and Sophie sent me a video message. "Happy birthday, Great Aunt Sarah," they sang, off-key and giggling. "We're saving our allowance to come visit you this summer," Emma added. "I'm going to make you so many cookies," Sophie said. "Like 1,000,000 cookies." "Maybe not 1,000,000, Linda's voice came from off-screen, "but a lot." I watched the video 3 times, smiling wider each time. This was inheritance too. Not money or property, but connection. Love freely given and received. The knowledge that I mattered to people not because of what I could give them, but because of who I was. I'd spent 12 years trying to buy Marcus's love with $142,000, and I'd found real love for free once I stopped looking for it in all the wrong places. 5 years after the trial, the final restitution payment arrived. $142,000, paid in full. I'd recouped every penny Marcus had taken from me. With interest and court costs, actually. The total came to $156,847. I sat looking at my bank statement, at the balance that had grown from $12,000 to over $168,000. I'd been careful with the money this time, saved most of it, invested some, used it for things that mattered, my health, my home, visits with Linda and the girls. I thought about calling Marcus, telling him the debt was paid. Then I remembered. I couldn't. The restraining order was still in effect, and would remain so unless I chose to lift it. Did I want to? I thought about it for days, weeks even. Finally, I made my decision. I called Amanda. "I want to keep the restraining order in place," I said. "Are you sure?" "The debt is paid. You have every legal right to reconnect if you want to." "I know, but I don't want to. Maybe that makes me a bad mother." "It makes you a smart woman," Amanda interrupted. "Sarah, you don't owe him a relationship. You don't owe him access to your life. He paid back money he stole. That doesn't erase 12 years of manipulation and abuse." I keep thinking, what if he really has changed? What if he's different now? Then he can live his changed life without using you to prove it. If he's really different, he'll respect your boundaries. He'll understand why you need distance. And if he can't understand that, then he hasn't changed at all. She was right. I knew she was right. Thank you, Amanda, for everything. Thank you for trusting me. For trusting yourself. Last month, I did something I'd been thinking about for years. I set up a trust. A real one this time, prepared by Amanda with clear legal language I actually read and understood. The trust specifies that upon my death, my house and remaining assets will be split between Linda and a charity that helps victims of elder abuse. There's a small amount set aside for Emma and Sophie's college funds. Marcus gets nothing, not out of spite. I'm long past spite. But because I've learned that inheritance should go to people who've earned it through love and respect, not through biology alone. If Marcus has truly changed, he'll understand. If he hasn't, well, it won't matter anyway. Today is Saturday, January 31st, 2026. I'm 71 years old. I woke up in my house, my paid-off house with its blue garage door and garden full of flowers. I made coffee in Harold's old coffee maker. I checked my bank account and saw a healthy balance. No one had asked me for money in 5 years. This afternoon I'm meeting Margaret for lunch, real lunch, at a restaurant, where I'll order whatever I want without checking the prices first. Next week, Emma and Sophie are coming to visit. We're going to plant a vegetable garden together. Sophie wants to grow tomatoes. Emma wants sunflowers. Next month, I'm starting a volunteer program at the senior centre, helping other elderly people recognise financial abuse. Amanda helped me design the curriculum. We're calling it Know Your Worth, because that's what I learned in the end. Not from Marcus, but despite him. I learned that my worth isn't measured in what I can give. I learned that love without respect is just exploitation with better marketing. I learned that saying no isn't selfish, it's survival. I learned that the family you choose can be stronger than the family you're born with. And I learned that it's never, never too late to stand up for yourself. My name is Sarah Patterson. I'm 71 years old, and I spent 12 years giving $142,000 to my son because I thought that's what mothers do. I thought if I just gave enough, loved enough, sacrificed enough, he would finally see me, finally value me, finally love me the way I loved him. I was wrong. But I was also wrong about something else. I thought standing up to him would destroy me. I thought losing my son would leave me with nothing. Instead, it gave me everything. My dignity, my freedom, my life. Was it worth it? The pain, the court case, the public acknowledgement that my own son had used me? Yes. 1,000 times, yes. Because the alternative was spending the rest of my life as an ATM with feelings. The alternative was signing over my house and ending up with nothing. No money, no home, no son who actually cared. At least now I have myself. And some days, that's enough. Most days, actually. Would I have done anything differently? Would I have said no sooner? Maybe. Probably. But I can't change the past. I can only live in the present I've built from the ashes of those 12 wasted years. So here's my question to you, to anyone listening. If someone in your life only shows up when they need something, are they really in your life at all? And if the only way to keep someone is to keep giving until you have nothing left, is that love? Or is it just slow-motion theft wrapped in the word family? I know my answer now. I wish I'd known it 12 years ago. But at least I know it today. And today, for the first time in a very long time, that's enough. 6 months after I'd written all this down, after I'd shared my story in the elder abuse support group Amanda had recommended, I received an email. The subject line read, "You saved my life." The email was from a woman named Patricia. Different Patricia, not the banker. She was 73, and she'd heard me speak at the support group. Her daughter had been asking her for money for years, tens of thousands of dollars for business investments and emergencies. Patricia had been about to take out a reverse mortgage on her house, her daughter's idea, of course, when she heard my story. She didn't take out the mortgage. She called a lawyer instead. "I thought I was the only one," her email said. "I thought I was a terrible mother for even questioning whether my daughter really loved me. But hearing you say it out loud, hearing someone else describe the exact same feelings, the exact same manipulation, it was like waking up from a nightmare I didn't know I was in. Thank you. Thank you for being brave enough to tell your truth." I cried when I read it, because that's what I'd learned in the end. Our stories matter. our truths, even when they're painful, even when they make us look foolish or weak or like we failed at the most basic job a parent has, our truths can save someone else. I'm not proud of being used by my son, but I'm proud of standing up to him. I'm not proud of how long it took me to see what was happening, but I'm proud that I finally saw it. And if sharing my story, my mistakes, my shame, my eventual triumph, can help even one person avoid my pain or escape it sooner, then maybe those 12 years weren't completely wasted. Maybe they were just an expensive lesson I was meant to learn and then teach. So I'll keep telling my story, at support groups, at senior centers, to anyone who'll listen, because somewhere out there, right now, there's another mother sitting at a kitchen table, staring at papers her child wants her to sign without reading. And maybe, just maybe, she'll remember my story. And maybe, just maybe, she'll say the word that saved my life. Wait.